Welcome back, everybody, to another segment here at the Valley Nature Center. My name is Andy, and today we're going to be discussing the life cycle of a honeybee. Have y'all ever experienced or witnessed any honeybees, maybe even a sting, maybe even eaten any honey? With our life experiences, these put a perspective in how a honeybee plays a role in our environment. In today's segment, I'm going to be covering some key vocabulary. So here are some of the key vocabulary words that we'll discuss today. Life cycle, egg, larvae, pupa, adult bee. Those are some of the key vocabulary words that you'll hear me say over and over. So what I like to do is I like to start within inside the hive, okay? So if I had to draw a hive, something like that. These hives are found in different parts of a tree. Maybe in the grass, just different locations in which the honeybee feels it's an appropriate area to grow and to be protected. So inside the hive, you have a bunch of cells. Okay, so bear with me. I'm gonna draw a couple of cells, and these cells are all interconnected with each other. One of the main bees inside of the hive, she is called a queen bee. And guess what her role is inside of the hive? If you've guessed it, she lays her eggs. Eggs, okay? She's going to go ahead and lay her eggs inside of the cells that are found inside of your hive, okay? Once she has laid all her eggs inside of each cell, we're going to go into another stage of the life cycle known as the larvae. Okay, so the larvae. Bear with me. Larvae. The larvae part is a very, very important part of the development of the honeybee. And let me explain why. Inside of those cells, the workers are going to help fill in the cell with a royal fluid. This royal fluid helps the cell develop over time. It helps the egg develop over time. And inside of the egg is what we're going to have what's called a... What do you think is next? You're correct. The next part of the life cycle is a pupa. You're absolutely correct. That's the next stage. So as you can see, the egg has transformed into what's called a larvae, and then over time we're going to go into what's called a pupa. But before we move on into the pupa, guess how much time we are stuck in the larvae stage? That stage takes about 5 days. It takes about 5 days. And what's happening in the cells and what's happening within this 5 days is that there's a royal jelly, which this is it. This royal jelly is helping the egg develop. Now, the next stage is what we call your pupa. So what's happening over time is on the very, very surface, on the very, 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 very surface of the cells, the worker bees have put what's called a beeswax right on the top. It's a beeswax. Okay? So you have what's called a beeswax layer right on top of all the cells. As soon as the pupa starts to develop and grow, and as soon as it's strong enough to pierce through the beeswax, it becomes an adult honeybee. Now, the pupa stage takes about 12 days. About 12 days long. And like anything else, everything that we do in life takes time, and it's a process. Same thing with the life cycle of a honeybee. Now, as an adult honeybee, as soon as it can pierce through the beeswax, it leaves the hive, and then it starts to develop a role, because everyone plays a big role in the environment of a honeybee. Just like you play a big role in your classroom Whether you're a leader, whether you're a greeter, whether you help with the electronics inside of the classroom, whether it's helping with Chromebooks. Same thing here with the life cycle of a honeybee. So real quick, I would like to go back real quick and I want to recap. So the very first stage is your egg. Your egg takes 3 days. Once the queen bee lays her egg inside the cell, the next stage is your larvae stage, which takes about 5 days. The next stage would be your pupa, and then last but not least, you have what's called your adult egg, your adult honeybee. Sorry, your adult honeybee. What I would like to do next is I'd like to show you a quick video of the life cycle of a honeybee. All right, boys and girls, so what you're witnessing here is how the queen bee lays her egg inside of the cell, and over time, the cell is filled with what's called royal jelly. This royal jelly is allowing the development of the larvae. Over time, the larvae starts to get turned into a cocoon and starts to develop into what's called a pupa. This larvae stage takes about 5 days, and over time in the pupa, it gets covered, the cell gets covered in what's called a beeswax. Now, the pupa stage takes about 12 days long for this process to develop. And over time, the pupa is developing into what's called an adult bee. And really soon, you're going to see how this adult bee pierces through the beeswax. And now they start to realize that they have a tongue in which they use to clean and eat all around within the cell. This stage is important because they're getting the cell ready for the next batch of bees to be developed. So that's the life cycle of a honeybee. So if you would like for any further instructions or clarification, we will provide a Google Classroom in which you guys can come and we can have an interactive lesson to go over some of the different parts and the different roles of the bee. So at this time, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. Again, if you have any further questions, we are a click away.
Thank you.